Hi everyone, in today's tutorial we are painting this river scene. It's from a photo I took in China, and the full real-time tutorial is over on my Patreon page. This is a shorter condensed version for YouTube. So I'll go over my materials. I'm painting on toned paper. This is a Strathmore Tone Tan 300 GSM paper. And I really like working on toned paper because it means you start on a middle value and you can paint in your lights first. I'm going to be using a limited palette of colors today, just a lemon yellow, alizarin crimson, ultramarine blue, and white. And then for brushes, I just have a couple of angle brushes and a round brush. And in terms of the composition for this painting, I did crop it a little bit at the top, and I also am simplifying some of the things in the scene, like the things in the water, and exaggerating a little bit of the color temperature to help bring more depth into the painting. For the drawing, I'm just starting off with a light pencil drawing and just getting the large shapes in. I'm placing the horizon line above halfway, about a third of the way down, and then just getting in the curve of the river and the large shapes of the trees and the reflection in the river. So it's a straightforward drawing, and I am always making drawing corrections in my painting process as well. This just gives me something to start with. Now I'm going to start with the light of the sky, and I'm just mixing white with ultramarine blue. And in this scene, the sun is coming from the top right hand side. You can see there's some really bright lights hitting the ground planes. I do also make some adjustments there as to where I want the bright light to be hitting, because I want your eye to travel into the distance and to look at the bank on the right hand side. So I'll go over that as we're painting. But to start with, I am painting in the sky and the reflection, and I add in a little bit of alizarin crimson into the sky as well. And I like working with a limited palette because it simplifies color mixing a lot and really forces you to think about color relationships and how you can get the most out of a limited palette. So after blocking in the water and the river, I'm going to start to paint in the trees in the distance. And as I said, I am exaggerating the color temperature a little bit. So I'm pushing things to be more atmospheric in the distance, which means I'm mixing in more blue and just a little bit of yellow and red plus white in the distance. And then as the trees layer on top and come towards us, I add a little bit more red, a little bit more yellow, and the value gets darker. And then as it gets even closer, I can darken the value a bit more, add some more blue, yellow, and red. And this is just a first pass on the shapes. My goal is to cover all of the paper so that I can start to judge the value relationships. With that piece of light on the left bank, I want to tone it down a bit. So I don't want it to be as bright as it is, because it is one of the areas with the strongest contrast in the reference image, with that dark tree in front of that bank of light, and it's not my focal area, so I need to tone it down a bit. So right now I've still painted it a bit too bright, but I do tone it down a little bit later. I also got the drawing off in this stage, and you'll see I come back and correct it later. I've painted that bank too low, so I will be raising it later. And then for the area in shadow, I just mix a dark value with the blue, yellow, a bit of red, and I block in that shadow area. And then I'm mixing up the reflection in the water and The reflection is just a little bit more kind of blue-green, a little bit darker, but mostly a reflection of the colors above. And then I start to block in the trees on the right-hand side. Again, exaggerating the color temperature just a bit to help with depth. And there's that one tree that's receiving a little bit more light, and I choose that one to be more of a focal tree for me, so I add more light to it and then paint in the reflection as well, just making those colors a little bit more kind of blue-green. And then for that bank on the right, as I mentioned before, I want to draw your eye there a bit more, so I'm going to increase that saturation and value and right around the area of the tree that I also chose to make more of a focal area. And here I'm going back and improving on my drawing. So on the left it was a little bit low, so I've raised that up and I've reduced the strength of the light, because in comparison to the bank on the right, I want it to be a darker value. I'm painting in some of the cast shadows from the tree on the right and just gradating out the values a little bit so that they have softer edges around it. Now I'm going into the reflection and improving the colors and the shape. And I've blocked in all of the white of the paper now, so I can start to judge my value relationships and make things lighter or darker as needed. I'm mixing up a little bit of a darker value brownish color to paint in the shadow or some of the ground that is on the right bank where it meets the water. And then I'm mixing up some blue and white, and I'm painting on things in the distance that's sitting behind the tree, so just making it an atmospheric blue color. And for the right hand side it's more in shadow, so I'm mixing up a darker value to place kind of below the trees and just indicating that there's more depth and space behind it. And then painting on the tree trunks, I like to paint them on using the angle brush and using a series of strokes that I connect on the side. It gives the trees a more natural feel and look, as opposed to, say, using a round brush or liner brush and painting it vertically. I like to use a series of strokes laid down and connect them together. Then I make a couple of adjustments to the shapes in the water. I want to soften the edge a bit. Things that are reflected in the water generally have a softer edge because of the ripples in the water. I also paint in a little bit more light hitting the trees on the right hand side. I simplified a lot of the things in the water. I thought it was a little bit too busy in the reference image, and so I'm only just painting on a few of the things floating on the surface and just mixing up some red, yellow and white, a bit of blue, and painting those in with some light and shadow. They help to break the surface of the water and to make it look more like a reflection. And then just making small tweaks here and there, making some areas a little bit lighter or darker as needed. But that is pretty much it for this painting. And I hope you enjoyed seeing how I simplified this scene into something that hopefully feels a little bit more atmospheric by purposely exaggerating the color temperature and simplifying elements in the photo, and also being a little more intentional with where I want to place the contrast in the painting so that I can direct your eye a little bit more. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in a future video.